patience needed, but to tell you what, the criticism was coming thick and fast the way of that man Benji Marshall. His first match in charge after a first round bye, going down heavily to the Canberra Raiders in Canberra. Gus, we talk about calling our Jets about the Bunnies after 2 matches. The same for the Tigers and some, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think anyone expected them to go to Canberra and win, did they? I mean, the result was pretty much what we thought. That's just where they are at the moment. As for all the comments about Benji's coaching, I think that's very premature too. It takes you a good 4 or 5 years in the role as a head coach to learn what sort of a coach you are and learn about head coaching and what the requirements are and learn how to delegate your staff and use your staff and the type of staff that you need. And, you know, Benji, I'm an unabashed Benji admirer from his playing days. It's a big transition going into coaching this young, particularly in this day and age of full-time professional sport and having so many staff members and all the other different aspects that go in with running a football team. He's got a long way to go and people have got to be patient with him and they've got to be patient with this young side. Look, I know firsthand how hard it is when your club is at the bottom of the ladder in this competition, how hard the NRL is and how hard that ladder is to climb. Without patience, it's not going to happen. You're just going to self-destruct. You've really got to be all rowing in the right direction and you've got to get behind Benji. He's going to take time to learn what head coaching is all about. He doesn't. I don't expect him to know it.
Yeah, I agree, Gus. And it's easy to kick someone when they're down. That's what we seem to do in the NRL. But I suppose a frustrating thing for me and for Tigers fans is the talk about he's not a full-time coach or he's not a 24/7 coach. Like, that's got to have come from someone within the club or someone around the club or someone that knows the club. And just eating yourselves from within, Tigers. Like, I feel sorry for Benji on that front. I said last week on this program I wouldn't have answered the question if I were him. I also think, you know, your roster has a lot to do with it. Your players make you coach in some degree. And I look at that roster and I'm being as respectful as I can. I don't see much. They've got some good young players coming through, but it takes young players, as you know, Gus, 25 to 50 games. Used to be 100, they used to say, 25 to 50 games to get used to first grade. And you got a forward pack on top of that, where a lot of guys are Clemens probably towards the back end.
You've got to learn to win.
Yeah, exactly right.
You're not winning.
Clemens towards the back end.
Papali
had a great year at the Parramatta, but only really one good season. Bateman's probably come the back end. I mean, their roster for me just isn't going to cut it with a lot of the good sides. And that's just what's happening to them at the moment. It's very, very hard, as Gus said, to get out of the cellar. You've got to try and attract talent. How do you attract talent when you're consistently running at the bottom of the ladder and you're not going any good? Now there's stories now that Shamus will talk about, you know, Stefano, rumours he may want out of the club. Is that right?
Oh, look at that. Well, it's been known for a little while that he's got a clause in his contract that will allow him to leave at the end of the season if the Tigers don't make the top 8. Now, there's been a little bit of an undertaking between the new management and Stefano's agent that it's in no one's best interest to wait until September to work out whether he's going to be at the club. The Tigers, if he's leaving September, they've got no time to replace him, so they want an answer at some point in the next 2 months, and the same goes for Stefano. If he's unhappy there and the club isn't winning and he wants to be in a winning team, in a winning culture, then it gives him time to find something as well. So don't be surprised in the next 2 months that the Tigers, they come to some sort of resolution around Stefano, and there are a lot of clubs circling. They know that there's a clause in his contract. Melbourne are looking at him. I'd be surprised if he became a free agent. If Gus, given their front row woes, don't look at him. The Dragons, there's a lot of clubs looking at Stefano, but he wants to stay at the Tigers. He likes Benji Marshall. He believes in what he's doing, but he also wants to be part of a winning culture. So how long that plays out, I think in the next 2 months they'll have an indication of where that's at with Stefano.
I think the winning culture at the Tigers is probably going to take some time. I agree with Gus on Benji. You've got to give him some time and stick with him and let him get some players there that he wants and he can build and mould into what he wants, because I can't see him do too good this season. I mean, they've got a very young spine, very young halves. You take a very young fullback, he's only been around for 1 season. You take out Coruscant, it's a young spine. I think it's tough times this year.
The point you made earlier about someone within undermining. Now, I've spoken to the Tigers, a lot of people at the club today. The disappointment for them is they believe that the former recruitment manager, Scott Fulton, has been saying a lot of things behind Benji's back. Now, it's no secret that they didn't get along during their time together. They didn't see eye to eye. They had different philosophies of how the club should be run, the players that they should sign. And I spoke to Shane Richardson today about it. Now, he didn't want to speak directly about Scott Fulton, who's since been made redundant at the club, but he was pretty disappointed. He said that the criticism of Benji Marshall is just not true. He says he wants him and his players to have a family life. It's a good thing, not a bad thing. He said at the end of the day, there is no one in my time that is more thorough and organised than Benji. He's somewhere between Madge and Wayne Bennett. He also said that in his personal life, if he had approached things the way that Benji has, he'd have a lot different personal life, and it caused him a lot less grief in his personal life if he did the way things Benji does. Now, the thing with Benji, though, you got to look back. He was under Michael Maguire at the end there, and Benji was pretty unhappy towards the end. And he's seen the way different coaches are, and he's got the spectrum of what they hold close to their heart, what they're passionate about, and he's found what works for him. And for him, it's getting that balance. And then those young players who adore him, who idolise him, showing them there is more to life than just rugby league. Finding that balance, though, when you're losing is going to be difficult. Now, guys, you've obviously said you obviously love Benji and what he's done as a player. How have you found the criticism before he's even played a game, well, coached a game over the past week? Do you think this is a deliberate attack of Benji to try and undermine, or is this part and parcel of being part of a team that hasn't had success?
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's probably been going on for 18 months. I mean, the original plan was for Tim Sheens to be there for a couple of years to wear the brunt of all this. And they got very impatient with that, or someone got very impatient with that before it was even halfway through. So Tim Sheens never got to finish what he wanted to do, and Benji Marshall has been exposed at the top straight away. So there was always going to be comment around it. But they knew that going in. They knew if they got rid of Tim Sheens and threw him into the top job, people would immediately apply pressure to it and see how it goes. All right, and that's the way they've responded. Tigers, you know, when you've got to build a club the way they've got to do it, all right, it's very, very difficult. And it's not just the head coach. It's management, it's the leadership of the club, it's also the people around the coach, and it's also your senior players. If you want to develop young people to come through and be professional footballers, full-time professional footballers, and then win for your club, when they come into the club and when they come into the team in that environment for training, you've got to have living, breathing examples of what true professionalism looks like. It comes from your senior players. You know, there's an old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a club to raise a footballer, all right? And the club needs to understand that. It's not just Benji's job. And this is not about them winning games. This is about developing young talent. They had a young 18-year-old 5'8" debuting there the other day. All right, they put a lot of their kids on long-term contracts because they had some success in the pathways over the last couple of years. All right, you've got to be patient. Have a look at this kid. Go to bed. I'll wake up in 4 years' time and show you what this kid is doing. All right, but they will lose him in that 4 years unless they put some people around him, right, that he can grow confidence in, that can grow confidence in him and build the club over a period of time. You know, building a club and building a footballer, it's hard work, and it takes a lot of energy from a lot of people to do it. And you've got to have the right people in your club to do it. You need living, breathing examples. It's just not the head coach's job. Senior players, management, board of directors, everyone's got to play their part.
Winning starts Monday. Winning starts Monday.
Every Monday.
You've got to win all week.
Every Monday.